Everyone, it's Kate Richburg, and I am live from beadshop.com. It's great to have everybody here with us this morning, and we're going to have a great time doing some two-hole bead looming, which is going to be great. We're going to do a lot of tips and tricks on working with loomed or bead woven beads, and um and we're going to get to it in just a couple, which is I'm just waiting for everybody to jump on so I can see that everyone is here and ready for needlework today. There we go. I can see people jumping on as we speak. Well, we've got a couple of things that I want to go over before we get to our project today. We have I have some announcements that I want to share with you, and what I'm going to do for this broadcast is I'm going to start with the project that we're doing today, and then I'm going to, at the end of the broadcast, I have a little bit of extra stuff for you guys. I want to go over a couple of little quick projects and things that I want to share with you guys, and also what's coming up on Free Tip Friday. But I want to do all of the project stuff at the beginning of the episode so you guys get that info first, and then we will finish up with a few little tips and tricks, because if you're watching this live, you know that the countdown to the 2019 holidays are upon us, right? So I've got some cool ideas for you at the end of the broadcast for some quick little gifts and also a preview of what's coming up on this epic Free Tip Friday on Friday. If you're not watching this live, no big deal. You're gonna be able to see all of the great looming stuff that I'm doing. But if you do want to be notified about special events and special things that are happening, jump on over to our website, beadshop.com. Sign up on that newsletter, and that's how we stay in touch with all of you all. So it's great to have everybody here. It looks like Geeta is over on the Beadshop feed doing some moderating over there. Thank you so much to Geeta. And Janice looks like she is here on our YouTube channel. It looks like there's a couple of people who are asking also, and I've gotten a couple of emails as well. Those of you who are, and I'm wearing it today, I'll hold it up here, hold my wrist up. You can see I'm wearing my Kate's Favorite with the Kate's Favorite button. It's a little hard to see, but maybe I'll bring it underneath this camera so you guys can see what my stack is going on. And I've had some questions about my coin buttons, and I have finally pulled it together and put them up on my personal jewelry website. So if you go to Kate Richburg Jewelry, that's where you'll find the coin buttons, everybody. And I'm stocking and restocking as fast as I can go because you guys are loving them. So thank you so much for your support on these. And you can find them, as I say, at katerichburgjewelry.com. So thanks so much. You can follow me on social. My Insta is at beadkate. While you're doing it, go ahead and follow our Beadshop Insta at beadshop.com. I post all kinds of kind of interesting tidbits up there. And we do some little Instagram TV or short videos on our Insta as well. So if you have not followed us over there, go ahead and give beadshop.com and at beadkate a follow over on your Instagram. So that is that. So let's take a look at, oh, and thank you, Janice, for linking it. That's nice. I finally pulled it together in all of my busyness to get those buttons up. But I really appreciate your support on those. I really do. And I'm so glad that a little bit of me is on your wrist when you work with these. So thank you very much. Okay, so let me show you this project that we've got. I'm going to go back to the title card here. And those of you who have seen it over on beadshop.com, we've got this leather and looming kind of piece that I'm calling it, and we're working with the December monthly mix that our incredible, I have a good picture of it right here, that our incredible fulfillment team, Jenny and Jordan, put together. And that's that top photo right at the top there. We call it Descendants, which alludes to many things about December, the descendants or the descending of the year, descendants thinking back over your family, and it ties in with the December birthstones as well. It's an homage to the turquoise, the tanzanite, and the blue zircon. So Jenny and Jordan, they were so funny. They were like, we have an idea for our December mix, and I'm all, have at it, kids, because you know, as you know, making a mix can sometimes be a little daunting, even for us here at Beadshop. And they're okay, we've got it. So they put together this really amazing mix, and they used a variety of beads. One that we had to get in, we couldn't. They were so particular that they're like, we can't quite find the right bead. So the new bead that we just got into stock is this SB. It's a new cube, SB263, and it is just a gorgeous cube. And how I use this in the loomed piece. Now, I want to mention also, we're talking about looming today, right? And the weaver in me freaks out about that word looming. And I know that if any of you guys are weavers out there too, you're like, Kate, you're not looming. There's no such thing as looming. It's weaving. And indeed, it is weaving. But as beaders, for many, many years, bead woven pieces have been referred to as loomed or loomings. A beading vernacular when I say looming. What I mean when I say that is bead weaving. Okay, so you use the term that that speaks to you. Now, the cubes are really what set this off for me. And and I'm going to show you, I'll put some in my hand. Here, let me get my hand underneath. We've got a half tila that you can see here, several half tilas. We've got it in that really beautiful, it's the half tila 316. Let me flash over to that. It's the, oh, it just says monthly mix. It doesn't have the monthly mix listed out, but it's the half tila 316. And it's the other half tila, which is the I think it's the matte turquoise that's in there too. And if you click over to the monthly mix on beadshop.com on Descendants, it has a listing of the ingredients too. So when and if we are back, when and if we run out of it, because we will, there's a finite amount of it, you'll be able to create your own. But I say create your own right off the bat too. I mean, the mix is lovely, but if it doesn't work for your color scheme, just create your own colors. We've got this cube, it's the SB263, and this is the new one that we just launched. And you can see the cube size is a little different. So I wanted to purposefully use this mix to talk about using, number one, 2-hole beads in this project. And number two, using beads that have slightly different sizes. Okay, so you can see, I'm gonna get it right down in here. Can you see what I added to my stack? I'm totally distracted by my wrist right now. Did you guys make these from Free Tip Friday last week? I've been wearing this one nonstop. I've just added it to my stack. I just want to say, there we go. Let me get in a little tighter here. Okay, there we go. So you can see the woven part of this. I have woven, let me get my little pointer. The pointer is pointing at the tilas there, the A dots, and there's the cubes. And I'm going to show you the secret to using something that's slightly a different size in here, because there is a little bit of thinking about it. But I love how this really kind of, I don't know, pays an homage to Klimt. It's very Klimtian to me. And it also, as people were saying, has kind of a Snow Queen or frozen look to it, which is why we named this sample Snow Queen. And you can find you'll find the finished sample on our website. We've been to Black Friday sales and stuff. That I'm sorry I didn't get it done pre-show, but I'm going to finish it for you right on the show today, and then the finished piece will be up. I like the rhythm and the movement of this, of how these beads go together, but that's me. So if you don't like the rhythm and movement of this, then that's fine. You do what works for you. But I think that using these tilas and the addition of this large cube gives it a little bit of visual interest and keeps it from being so plain and dull. Not that it's dull, but you know what I mean. Gives it a little action, a little bit of action. So let me pull back on the piece here so you can see it a little bit better, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using. So what I've got here, and I'm going to actually in a second go from this to something I have set aside here so you can see it. You can kind of see me get this started. But essentially what I have is a tube of the monthly mix with all of those mixes of beads in there. And then I have the slide tube. I use the small slide tube, but we have the slide tubes in 3 different sizes. So you can make it wider if you want. In the interest of actually getting this sample done and not making it too much of a behemoth, I opted for the small slide tube, but you can go medium or you can go large. You're going to need a clasp. I used the little lobster, but you could go a little bit bigger on the clasp if you wanted. But since this piece is a little small, I didn't want to go with a giant clasp, so I used the little lobster. You're going to need some jump rings to connect that little lobster to it. These are the 4mm jump rings in satin gold. And then you need some chain and some jump rings for that. And we used the circle back chain in satin gold. And you can see I have here up on the screen now, this is just a screenshot from what we have on the website. So if you go over to beadshop.com and you play around with the, you click on the project, this list will come up and you can see everything is listed there. Now take a look at the photo on the bottom right. I'm going to move this stuff in so you guys can see it. And this is one where I'm going to start everything on this for you guys so you can actually see how it goes together. And then we're going to move to finishing off the other one as well. But I want to show you how I get the party started here with these things. Okay, whoops, that was straight already. There we go. And so what I did here was, and you can see it's on the screen here, you can take a screenshot of it real quick. Or you can Drea will have it listed. She's going to do some episode notes for this, or we'll do a blog post. She may actually just do a skill builder for this, but we'll list this alternate colorway. But essentially what I've pulled, we still have some of the Autumn Fantasy November's mix, and you can see on our homepage it's actually still up. This was a mix, and it's in our editorial. Every November, we like to do a donation to the Second Harvest Food Bank here in, it's local in the Silicon Valley in California, here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And, you know, food issues are prevalent throughout the world, but they're even prevalent here in Silicon Valley. So with all of the riches we have here, we do also have a lot of people who are needy. So we donate $2 of every tube of this Autumn Fantasy, the November mix, to the Second Harvest Food Bank. Janice and I are totaling up the numbers. We still have some left to sell. So what even doesn't sell out, we're just going to total it up, the number that we have, and we will let everybody know, how much we've donated. But you guys really responded to this beautifully, so thank you so much, and thank you for your purchase. And and know that your dollars are going to something great here, to feed the hungry here, locally to us. So thank you for that. So I'm going to use this monthly mix with the demo, and I've pulled this 316, the half Tyla 316 here, and so you can see how the 2-hole goes. And I wanted to show you the 2 different cubes. You know that we have these SB18 cubes, the smaller ones, it's the 1.8 millimeter. So if you don't like the large cube look, you could go down to the smaller cube as well. So I'm going to show you how those work. And then I grabbed, just for fun, this Vega on Hyacinth Super Duo, because if we're talking about looming or bead weaving with 2-hole beads, we want to look at how the two-hold super duos work on this too. Okay, so I'm going to start with this, and then we're going to move over, and I'm going to show you how I finished this off and how we're going to close it off here. Okay, so let's start with this alt colorway, and Karen is supposed to be in and taking some photos, so I'm going to text her real quick and tell her that I'm starting to loom. There we go. So it's picture time, and let me show you what we've got. So let me get a little tighter here so you guys can see what I've used. And let me actually go to this other board for just a second. I've got this one, or this 0.5 millimeter leather cord, and that's what I used for the warp and the weft. Okay, now you could use Ceylon and stuff if you wanted to as well, but I wanted something a little more substantial, and we did call this leather and looming. We're putting this under the leather and looming category, so it needed some leather in there, so that's what I used. So with the 0.5 leather, though, it can be fragile sometimes, right? Like we are around the holidays, all of us are so fragile, including this 0.5 leather. So what I do, that didn't even get a laugh from Karen. She's standing here, stone-faced. Karen's right here in her cute hair today. So what I do is I test it, and I pull the 0.5. I do this kind of anyway, regardless of when I use the leather. You know, we inspect the leather. Each one that we send to you, we bundle ourselves. So we kind of do this when we package them, but sometimes the leather, if we don't see it, might have a little nick or a little flaw, and especially in this 0.5 size, it can make it a little fragile, like I said. So I just run it through my fingers to make sure it's all good, that nothing's gonna snap. Okay, so now what I do here is I will wrap it around the board, and you can see I have 5 pieces of leather here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our deep dish design tray, and it has a velvet pad underneath, but you could use any kind of tray that you might have at home. Some people use box lids. You could wrap it around your macrame board, whatever it is that works for you. Karen, you're getting some hellos over here. Hellos from Karen. So now to wrap this, to make this into a loom, this board, I'm just going to take a piece of leather and I'm going to hold it there, and now I'm just going to wrap. I need to kind of give myself a little more room here. Let me do it down here. And I'm just going to wrap, and I'm going to go however many times, or however many beads you want to use across. You need to do one more wrap than beads. So if I'm using 4 beads across, I wrap 5 times around the board. Sorry, this is a little funny to deal with here on screen, but I'll show you. This one, since it's short, I just grabbed a piece of leather out of the It's a Lot of Leather bin, so I'm just going to show you how I knot it off. But essentially, I wrap it all the way around. So I know I'm short. I know I only have 4. But I'll wrap it all the way around, and then I'll tie a knot here. like this. And I want everything to be pretty tight, not so tight that it doesn't, it's straining, that the leather is straining, but tight enough so I've got a little bit of bounce back with this leather. Now all I do is that knot, I turn it, I move it to the back of the board, and I just pull my strands so they're about the bead width apart. Okay, that's it. That's how I set it up. I tie the knot on the top because it's easier for me to deal with it up here, and then when I slide it around, it lives here on the back. Okay, so I've done that with this one, with this alternate colorway that's right here. Okay, and I've done 5 across. Let me get all of this business out of here. I put a little dish here. Then I'm gonna get a few of those cubes. These are the small ones. Remember, they're the 1.8 millimeter. Let me get a little tighter so you guys can see it. They're the 1.8, and let me get this half Tyla. And I use the half Tyla because it's about the same width as the A-dots. When the girls were designing this, I was like, okay, we've got to have everything that's kind of the same width. So I wanted to, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to loom with this. So I wanted them to be at least kind of close in size. Okay, so I've got those, and I've got our mix. This is the November monthly mix. So for this, I used Distressed Light Brown is what I used here. And I just chose the apricot size of the KO, but you could even use micro Ceylon with this, would also work. KO, Hana, or micro Ceylon I would recommend, or you could use the Ceylon D, which comes, we carry in the tubes, the different colors. All of those would work. Okay, so I'm a waxer, so I'm going to get my beeswax, and I'm going to reel off. I'm measuring it by my board. These boards are 14 inches long, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do 4 lengths of my board. Okay, I could get away with doing maybe a little bit more, but don't be afraid about adding thread, you guys, and I'm going to show you how to add thread too. But here's this. I'm just going to come in, and I'm just going to wax and wax and wax and wax through. But I really love this 0.5 leather. The quality is so nice, and the distressed leathers are beautiful, and we carry the distressed leathers. We carry 0.5 in a lot of different colors, but the distressed is beautiful, as are those pearlized ones too. So we love them. We love them very much, and they're fun to do bead weaving with. I know it's a little unconventional, but when were we ever conventional here at beadshop.com? So I'm going to slide my thread just under, let me get a little tighter so you guys can see this, with my KO. I have a size 10 beading needle, and I'm going to do the old Emily mantra of needling the thread, not threading the needle, which is placing the thread right against my thumbnail and pushing the eye of the needle down on the thread and then pulling it through. Oh, it almost went. I can grab it. Whoop. I should have pre-strung this, but you know, why when you can see me fumble live on air? Give that end a good little waxing. Let's try this again. Pull it under my thumbnail, right next to my thumbnail, and needle the thread with the eye of the needle. It's a little out of my vision. I probably need to tell my optometrist that I need some glasses that'll make me see this far. Hang on, let me get a little closer to my head. Bear with me here so I can see it. Oh yeah, there we go. There it is. Through, and there you are. Okay, so let's widen this shot a little bit. So you might think that I start this project at the end, right? And weave, 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 weave to the other end. Well, you'd be wrong. I'm going to tell you what I do. And I actually start in the middle because I want a nice sturdy base here, and I'm not really sure the length and stuff of what this is going to be. So I start my weaving in the middle, and then I'll weave up and I'll weave down. Okay, so to start, I'm going to put on 5 of the A dots because I want a nice stable center here. Okay, so that's how I start that. Remember, we've got 5, whoops, sorry. I've got 4, I'm thinking 5 because we have 5 wraps, there we go. I have 5 wraps of leather, which makes 4 channels, and you're gonna hear Karen's camera flashing. It's my moment.
Too long.
That's okay. It's my paparazzi moment here. So you can see those are going to fit in just nicely. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start my bead weaving from my left going to my right. Okay, so I'm going to take my thread, I'm going to go under, and I'm going to try and leave about half of my thread as a tail, okay, because I can weave up with it. And I've got the other half through my needle here. So I just push those beads up through the leather, and you can see I've got a nice length of thread here too. And I'm going to go back through, so I've gone under, I push up with my finger, and I take the needle and I go back through the top of the bead. Okay? Then once I've done that, I'm going to reinforce this first row, okay, by going under the leather one more time, making sure I'm catching each bead underneath. Easier said than done. There we go. And then I'm going to kind of turn it to make sure, yep, I didn't miss any of them. And now I just pull it through, and I'll go back one more time. But see how that establishes a nice, good, even base for my piece. Okay? So now you do you. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do another row of A dots just for fun. I'll put on 4. And you saw when I did the sea star wrap, it was kind of similar to this. I did some weaving, some bead weaving, but only the outsides of the wrap were leather. The insides were thread, and I can't remember. I probably used Ceylon, though I may have used KO or Hana. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the project. So there's my second row. Push it up, right? And then just when I'm going back to put my needle back through, I try and hit the top of each of these beads to make sure that I'm going through the correct channel of this needle, of the correct channel of the bead, that I'm not missing any of the beads. Let me go down a little closer so you guys can see that. Okay. So next, now maybe I'll start mixing it up a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to start, what I like to do with the kind of oddly shaped beads that we've got, I like to keep them in the center channels, especially, and you'll see that when I work with the cube, how I kind of keep them to the center, and I'll show you why on that other one. But see here, I've gotten my row of beads. Can you see that? And I've gone through this A dot, the top hole on the tila, right? And then the other 2 A dots, okay? And you complete that thread path. And I'm going to go back through the top. So I go underneath first and at the bottom for the second pass. Or the bottom for the first pass, the top for the second pass is what I meant to say. Now, this second hole, the bead is already on for this next row, right? So I need to put on an 8/0, which I'll do. Then I'll push my tila down and go through the hole. Let me get the 8/0 there so you can see it. There we go. And now I put on my two other 8/0. So when the needle passes through, let me tuck this one under there. See how the tila is just now part of the second row. Okay, push the beads up. Tila's a little flat, so you have to make sure you get through it, and then tighten. And you want to make sure that everything is nice and tight. Not so tight. See how, look at, that's too tight. Let me get in kind of there. As I was saying, not too tight. See how this tila is probably, it might be a little bit thinner, or this bead might be a little bit thinner, but see how tightly I pulled that in, so how this leather dips in. It doesn't particularly bug me that much, but if I can, see how I got the tip of the awl in there and I kind of pulled it out, so that's nice and straight. I'll get my finger underneath and I'll pull it just so it's tight now, but not ratchet it down so it's giving it a dimple. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to put a tila to the outside. I'll put an 8/0 here, and then let me add a cube. I've got a cube and then another 8/0. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so underneath, I really like how this monthly mix sits really nicely with this leather. So see, there's the cube, that little 8mm or the 1.8 millimeter. Okay, weave it back through, then pop down to the bottom hole of this tila, half tila. I'm going to do another 8/0. Just for fun, I'm going to put in another tila. Let's be heavy with these half tilas. And then another 8/0. Okay, so you can have a tila here ending and a tila beginning on the same row. Okay, and then let's just send it through. Now let's look at, I'm going to put in one row. I'm just going to finish this row off, and then we'll look at the super duo. Okay, so these need to go, then I need to go through the half tila, and then I haven't used one of these bright ones, and I'm not really planning it out much. Sometimes, you know, I know that there are monthly mix sorters out there. I know that you like to sort the monthly mix. I am a monthly mix dumper. I dump it out and use it. So do whatever works for you. Okay, so let me get another 8/0. I'll put the super duo in here. I'll put that in next, and an 8/0 and another 8/0. Yeah, that's 4. So now I'm going to come in. The super duo might be a little wider. Whoops, caught on something here. Oh, see what I didn't do? I didn't go around the leather and underneath. So let's take all that out, go around the leather and underneath. There we go. And now push this up. So you can see the super duo is a little wide. Can you see that? Let me move my finger and you can kind of see it. See how it's a little wide? But that should be okay. It's all in the tension. Okay, so I'm going to pull this in to make it sit correctly, it's all in making sure the tension is good. So I'm gone back through that top one. And that Super Duo is going to have a little bit of air around it, probably. But the air doesn't bother me as long as it's done in an intentional way that has, and it looks neat. I haven't used one of these pink ones yet, so I'm going to put one on. I'm going to put 2 pink. There we go. So see, I popped down to the bottom hole of that Super Duo. Need to get my finger out of there so I don't weave it in. But there's that. And I'll come back through all of those. Now, anytime that there's a bead that is a little bit funny shaped or a little bit wide or a little bit unusual, I like to reset the row, and you'll see me do that with the cubes. I like to reset the row with a row of 8/0. Okay. So there's that. And I wanted to say a big thank you. I know there's some first-time viewers or viewers that are still on vacation that are getting to watch us live. So thank you so much. It means, you know, your shares and your word of mouth and your just your support of us here at beadshop.com means the world to us. Seriously, we really are very grateful for you. Sure. Oh yeah, here. Like, do you want my finger under it?
Yeah.
There we go. I'm actually going to put, and Karen, you might want to take this one too. I think I'm going to put a Super Duo and a Tila next to each other. Let's see how this looks. Okay. Pose for Karen. Okay. And we like to multitask here at Beadshop, so getting the notes or the skill builder photos and the broadcast done at the same time is always a good time. So let's see how this sits. It might sit a little funny, but I want to test it out. I think it'll actually be okay. So there's that one. So see, I've got the Super Duo and the half Tila together. And now I've got 2 2-hole beads, right? So I need to put on that 8/0. I need to put on that 8/0. Go through the Tila, half Tila, go through the Super Duo, make sure I catch them both. Can you see that? I've caught them both. And now put on an 8/0. Stabilize it. Now again, remember I'm right-handed, so I am working from the left to the right, and that's what works for me. But there's no hard, fast rule when you're bead weaving what side you should start on, really. You know, if there is, I don't know it, and I don't like hard, fast rules. So work how best works for you. So you can see how that kind of moved it out just a little bit, but it's fine. I'm going to reset it with a row of 8/0. Okay, you can always kind of, if it goes a little wide, you can always reset it with that 8/0 row. And I am really liking it. I love this lone little 8/0 cube that's in there. I mean, that 1.8 millimeter cube. I need to use more of them. So on that note, I'll use more of them. Let me get an 8, a cube, an 8, and a cube. Okay. And then, there we go. Yeah, look at those cubes. How they're like little shiny rays of light in here. Look at that. Looks good. Okay, so I'm going to get my fingers out of the way. I'm going to move this down. Let me try and center it. in the shot here so you guys can see what I've done. There we go. Now's the time, if you're taking a screenshot, now's the time to do it. Okay. And so you can see that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, that's 14 rows, I think, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Let me measure this for you guys to see how long this is. So remember, I've started in the middle, and this is about 1.5 inches, just a hair over 1.5 inches, okay? So I will continue to weave down. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I'll continue to weave down towards me, right? And then what I'll do is I'll continue also to weave up. So remember that long tail that I left from this row? I went through double, right? And if you missed the beginning, don't worry. These videos always live on in our archive on our YouTube channel, as well as on our Facebook page. If you haven't given our YouTube channel a follow, I would love it if you would. That way you'll be notified every time we go live on YouTube, as well as every time we upload a video or whatever content we put up on YouTube. So give us a follow, and you'll stay in the know there. So see, I've strung up that top needle, and so now I'll just do the same thing, but I'll do it in reverse. I'll do this. I'm going to do 2 cubes next to each other and maybe another A dot. Okay. And then what Janice also said, which maybe I didn't state emphatically enough earlier as well, is that starting from the center, this is the most important measurement here, right? So if you're starting a design, planning a design where your design has to sit right smack dab in the middle, then you can go out from either side and get it correct, you know, get the length correct. And then if you go ahead and recreate that, then you know how many rows and stuff. You can do it from one end to the other. But certainly for experimenting, starting from the middle, I think, is the way to go. Now, I want to make sure that my thread, I want to show you going up from the top. See here how on the side, if you'll remember, let me get a little tighter in here, how this first row, I went back and forth twice. Okay, see? And see how my thread now is coming out from underneath? What it wants to do is come up on the top of this piece. But I always like to start my pieces from underneath. So what I do is I take a stitch just for this row around, see if I can get all these beads through. There we go. So that the thread is anchored. Did it go? Let me make sure. There we go. So it's anchored around, and now I go underneath. It just kind of keeps that row, it keeps everything consistent. So now I'll push it up from under. Look at those darling cubes. If you don't have the 1.8 millimeter cubes yet, I don't know what you guys are waiting for. They are just charming as all get out. I love them. I'm going to have to plan some more projects with them. Janice and I were so excited when we got them. And we've used them a couple of times, but they need to go into heavier rotation. Okay. My mom is saying just turn the tray so you could bead down. You could, Ma, but then my needle will be on the opposite side. But you could do that. You could just weave back through and reposition your needle as well. I kind of like working up and down, which works for me. But you could also just reposition your tray. But just make sure to reposition, you know, just go through with your needle, and just go for it that way. but I like seeing it grow from both directions. Whatever floats your boat. I'm going to get a super duo in there. I love the unexpected shape too of the super duo in this. I'm doing the super duo mainly so you guys can see how it works in here, but I also think the introduction of a different shape. We've done the super duo in our project we call Tapestry, which I think it just gives it some visual interest and texture. And we were talking, I think it was last week, we were talking about how to make things look expensive or, you know, have a really kind of fancy, not a fancy look, but something that, you know, a finished piece that kind of looks expensive. I think mixing up the textures and the colors and having some unexpected elements in your piece all adds to kind of the visual statement that your piece makes. So what I'm saying is try super duos. We're getting, those of you who, if we're watching live, you know that our big Black Friday and Thanksgiving sales were this past week and weekend. So we're busy restocking the store. So things are coming back in. We have a big super duo Tyla and half Tyla order coming. So if you go over to Beadshop and you see that your favorite is sold out, do not despair. Put it on the notification list and you'll get an email as soon as they go back in stock. And as always, we appreciate your patience with our getting things back in stock. It feels like it's always a rotating bead bank, right? It goes in, the beads come in and they go out, and it's a never-ending struggle to keep things in. So we always, again, appreciate your patience with that. So here this is, okay? And so I'm going to switch over. I love this. I'm going to finish this. I love it. I want to show you a little bit about the clasp and the width on this, just so you know. It's about a 1/2 inch, right? So it's not super wide. The leather is a size 0.5 millimeter. You could pop up to a 1 millimeter. I'm sure you could. It's just the closure. I used the 0.5 with the particular closure I'm going to use. But if, as I was sailing through fulfillment, trying to figure out what else I was going to use today, I clamped eyes on our magnetic clasps. This is one of Janice's favorites, the Book of Kells. And the Book of Kells is almost exactly the right width for this. So you could glue, and you've seen me do this, you could glue this right into the ends. And that's probably how I'd finish this one off. And so something like this clasp is fairly wide, this opening, so I think using a 1 millimeter would be fine for this. Let me go over to the sample, the other sample. Okay, let me get this one out of the way. And let's go over to this guy over here. The way I'm closing this off with the slide tube, I needed something that was narrow. Okay, and let me show you what I mean. The slide tube opens like this, okay? And see how when I slide the leather through here, it's a little hard to do it just singly. But see how that 0.5 millimeter slides right, 5 millimeter slides right into that opening nicely. If I used a larger leather, a 1 millimeter, it wouldn't slide in as nicely. Okay, so that's the other reason I use this. So so far I've got about an inch to go on this bracelet. Okay. Let me open this up a little bit. And I've started again, I've started in the middle and I've worked my way up. I'm going to talk about this closure in a second, so just hang on to that. But let me measure. So I have about an inch to go here. Can you see that? And when I get close to this, okay, I'm going to show you what I start to think about. Okay, I mock everything up. I'm going to move this over because it's kind of in my way. There we go. When I'm about when I think it's, you know, I'm about an inch shy from where I need to be, I start to line everything up and I take a measurement. Okay, so here's my slide tubes. I'll put those together. Here are my jump rings, so I'll lay those jump rings out. And I'm going to need a jump ring per side. So I'll get this on there to start anyway. So there's this. And I'm going to put this guy on. I'm going to close it up, make sure it's closed nicely. And I'm going to get my chain and I'll attach my chain. We carry, I love that you guys are loving the Book of Kells. We carry the Book of Kells in 3 different flavors, in the antique copper, brass, and in the silver. I can't even tell you which is my favorite. I love them all, but this brass one, it is so good, isn't it? It's real nice. And then I brought the copper one. Here's all 3 of these so you guys can see them. Those are the Book of Kells. Really nice. I love them. Nice and heavy too. So now, can you see how I've got my clasp laid out? Now I'm going to measure that length. Okay, and my wrist size is 6.5 inches. Okay, and I want a little bit of extra chain so I can adjust this as needed. So door to door, the clasp here, maybe to this link right here, I'm going to say I'm going to cut, maybe I'll cut like 2 1/4. Okay. So I know that I really only need about an inch left of my chain of the bead weaving to make this long enough. But with the adjustable chain link, you can have, that actually might be a little long. I'm going to clip it. There we go. That looks good. Then at the end, what I'm going to do later is I'm going to wire wrap a little dangle or something, or you can add a charm or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to move this over and let's finish up this guy here. You how these larger cubes kind of work. Again, the larger cubes are so Klimtian. I don't know even if that's a word, but I love them. I really intentionally pulled those big ones into this design because I thought it was so unique and interesting. So I need a little more space. See how this is getting a little, I don't know, it's a little short for me to work with. So I'm gonna just, see how I just push this up? That's why you don't want everything to be super tight around here. So you can just move your loomed piece up. Okay, so let's get tied in there so we can see. There we go. And I'll continue my row. First though, before I do that, I need to add some thread. And I know when I say add thread, your little hearts skip a beat, right? Just everybody just relax. Okay? Just chill. Because it's not as hard as you think. It is hard if I don't have the right thread. Hang on, I have to grab a thread. I'm not sure what happened to my thread. Oh dear, let me grab some. So keep looking, and I'm going to grab my white thread here. I think there's some right over here. That's what happens when you're doing it live, kids. So I used, nope, I need to holler. Hang on, I need to holler. Can somebody bring me an ivory KO, please? There we go. Somewhere between my desk and this creation station, my ivory KO went AWOL, but that's okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that, you guys. The camera, for some reason, also decided to go AWOL. Sorry about that. Let me just get that re-plugged in. I've just put this list up for your viewing pleasure. So here's the ivory. The ivory here. And I start, before I take my thread away, I add my thread in. Okay, if that makes sense, so that I don't lose my place. Okay, so and using my board as a measurer, maybe 1, 2, I don't know, 3, because I don't want to have to add it again. So it's about 3 lengths, maybe about a yard of thread. Okay, I'll flip it and wax it. There we go. And I'm going to string a needle. We're still, see how my closing thread, it's still here. It hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere. Though I do need a needle. I'll take one off of this other project. Again, still a size 10 seed bead needle. Needle the thread, don't thread the needle. Now I'm going to start back with my new thread. I don't know, maybe go about 4 rows or 5 rows back. Let me go back to here. And I'm just going to come in. I'll leave a little bit of a thread. And I'll just weave, see here, I'm going to get even a little tighter so you guys can really see. There we go, my needle placement, pretty tight in there. So I'm going to go back through this guy and I'm going to come out here to the center. What I need to do is just lock my thread into place. Okay, so I'm just going to come up 1 row through that bead, back down. I'll go through the bead next to it, like weaving in and out anytime. But I'm not going across all the rows yet. I'm just weaving here in the center. Because I don't want a lot of, it doesn't really show with this white thread and the white leather, but I don't want a lot of extra thread around my sides, right? I want to hide that. So now I'm getting to where I need to be. So I'm just going to come out here on this last row. Like that. I'm just going to bring my needle up to the top and send it all the way through. Okay, so now my new thread is coming out at the same position my old thread is in. Okay, now my old thread, I'll just do the same. I'll weave it up. And just relax yourselves, right? It's just, see, I can just go even up through this one row. It's okay. Just weave it back up. I'll bypass all this stuff by weaving it back and forth up this row till it's maybe clear of that other part, and then maybe I'll just go up through this row right here and change positions. Send it back through the cube and back through the end. Okay, that's it. No knots, nothing, no glue. Everybody just calm down, right? That's it. That's all there is. Now, you could clip it or thread burn it. I'll thread burn it so you can see up close. And the thread burners, you guys, I know I mentioned this last week, they have been out of stock with our distributor for a while. We have literally a ton of them on order, so make sure that you're on the notification list when you want them, and they'll be back in soon. But when we get them back in, jump on it so you don't miss them. I'm just going to push the button there, let the thread burner heat, and then pull it under tension. You could also clip it too with your scissors. You don't have to have a thread burner. We're just fancy that way, so we do. Hold it up so you don't burn anything else like the leather or anything. There we go. So that's it. Okay. Now, I love how Janice and Gita have traded over on, Gita's over on the YouTube channel doing some moderating, and Janice is over on Facebook. You sneaky ladies. I like that. Let's widen this up and let's do some weaving. So that's how you do the thread change. Okay, so no big deal, right? So let's get my beads, and you can see I've left with a tie last, so I'll just do a row of 4 8/0 just to get it in there. Now I want to use, I'm going to put this in and then I'll put a cube in, because I want to show you how I use the cube, the larger cube, to make it work. Our Klimptian cube. There we go. Push it up and slide that needle back down the track. Now you can see in the pattern that I've made, I've kept these cubes to the inner 2 channels. I didn't put a cube on the outside, on either of those channels on the outside, because I didn't want the outside to undulate too much, those edges, and so it kind of corrects itself when it's in the interior. So that's what I did there. So let me put on an 8/0. Let me put on a cube and 2 more 8/0. Okay, and you can see the difference here. So there's that 8/0, there's the cube, and see how the cube just kind of muscles its way in there, and the cord kind of goes over a little bit. Okay, get a little tighter so you can see it. Now I'll just send my needle back over the top, like so, and pull it. Leslie is saying only use the half tilas, not regular tilas. That's right, unless you, probably 2 8/0, Leslie, like this, would be the same width as a regular tila. So I would just put 2. If I put 2 8/0 and 1 regular tila, you could do it that way too. But you'd have to be consistent, if that makes sense, right? So now I'm going to reset. Remember how I said you always reset it here with a row of 8/0. So I'll do a row of 8/0 here. And that will kind of normalize everything. Bring it all back into line. And again, remember, we want to pull it so it's tight. You are going to have just a little bit of looseness in there, but that's why we really want to make sure that our thread is a pretty a color that matches pretty well or accents pretty well, because you will see your thread a little bit more in this weaving than you might normally. I'm going to put a half tila on the end. So I'll go through, and this is where I've added the cube. But what I've done is I put the cube on the opposite side. Can you see that? So see how the leather kind of goes this way and then this way a little bit. Okay. Then we'll go back. Okay. So yeah, this is the warp. The 0.5 millimeter is the warp here. Okay. And then the weft, or the thread that goes right to left, this is the KO. That's how you remember warp and weft. Weft rhymes with left, that goes right to left. So I can never remember that. And then I'm going to normalize again with a row of, whoops, I have one too many, with a row of 8/0. Now I'm going to check and see my length and see where we are. I don't know if any of you are traditional weavers, do any weaving on a loom. I also like to do loom weaving. Weaving is very, I think, methodical and grounding, which are two things that help me get through the day. But I do like, if you haven't tried it, using just getting yourself a little rigid heddle loom. A lot of companies make looms that are rigid heddle tabletop looms. They're a great way to get into traditional textile weaving. I did a whole, one year I did a whole week of a textile camp and learned a lot about weaving. It was really fun. Someday, when I have more time, I'll be able to have some more textile looming time, but I do love it. Okay, so here's this. So let me measure, okay? Halina, I see you have joined us from the Ukraine. Welcome. My husband, his mother's family is from the Ukraine, and so we celebrate our holidays with a lot of Ukrainian foods. So I love that you're here. Welcome. So here is 6 inches. So I'm right on the money. Okay. So that's good. So now to close it. Okay. Let me show you. Let me get rid of these beads because I have potential for disaster here. So let me get rid of these. All of these guys. Okay. And here's my little clasp that I'm going to need in a minute. But I'm going to pull this back around so you guys can see. And I'm going to get really close on this, because this is kind of important. The closure. Okay. So you can see for about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, maybe not much here. Okay. I've woven back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to give myself a little bit of a thread end. And what I did was I glued that end with my zap glue. Okay, so it's tight. It's really, let me really get in there. I don't want to go too close so it's out of focus. But see how I've just gone back and forth, and it may even be too long, but that's okay. I can clip it a little bit because all of this needs to fit into the slide tube clasp. Okay, so I've woven, I don't know, 2, 4, 6, maybe 6 times there. I added a little bit of zap glue, and you're going to see me do this in a second. I've added a little bit of zap glue in there so it's all nice and tight. Now I'm going to do that with the opposite, whoops, sorry, wrong way, opposite end. Let me zoom out here. So I've got this end here, and I'm going to take, I don't add any thread or anything, I just use the thread as is off the bottom. And I just come in and go over, under on the end. Now, this is where it can all go wrong, all right? If you make this too tight, okay? If you keep pushing the thread down, pushing everything too tight, when you clip this off, and you've glued this and then clipped it off, your threads will be too tight and your piece will buckle. Okay, and we get a lot of questions at customer service. Well, my loomed piece is warped. What happened? So you just really need to make sure when we glue, when we close it, when we do the final closure, that your weaving isn't bunched up on each other. So you need to have the tension correct going right to left, but also north to south as well. Does that make sense? You could add, I love all the ideas flying around, you could add a charm in the center. You could, there's so much that you could do with this. With these closures, you could also ladder, right? I could continue with laddering and closing it off like I did the Sea Star wrap. There's a lot of inventive ways that you could deal with this. Just need to make this just a little bit tighter. I saw a little bit of thread there that I didn't like to see. Now, you also want to make sure that the piece isn't going to be too wide for your slide tube. So we need to take that into account, that as I'm making this, I don't want it to bulge out beyond the sides, right? So we just want to pull it in just maybe a hair, not much. Okay. And yeah, you could go ahead and use that 1 millimeter, but again, the 1 millimeter and the slide tube, and you'll see when I slide it on, the opening of this slide tube is very narrow. So that 0.5 is what's going to fit right in here. Okay. If you're going to use the 1 millimeter, you can pop up to any of the magnetic clasps that we have, the 10 millimeter magnetic clasps, these guys here, and this opening will work for the larger leather. Okay. But experiment with what you have, you know, and the different closures. You don't have to put a slide tube or a clasp on. You can close it a little bit differently, like we do with our wrap bracelets. I just haven't used a slide tube in a while, so I wanted to remind you of how to use it. And sometimes it's a little bit of a stumper. Okay. So, so I just wanted to make sure. So that's 4. Here's 5. And then we'll go back through. Just slide it in and use your awl or your toothpick or whatever to set the threads. This is where, though, it can all go south. okay? You don't want to push this weft threads down too tight, or else it's going to make this weaving, it's going to bunch this weaving up too tight. Okay, so make sure you keep that there's movement in this, right? Because we don't want our loomed section to warp. Okay. I love it. Lynn is saying she caresses the beads before doing the weaving, so that's what I'm doing here. I caress the beads, right? So let's do this final one. This is 6. Okay, now comes, I think I'm actually going to do, this looks, maybe I did 8, so I'm going to go back and forth one more time. Now this is where your patience will pay off. You know how I like to say when I am working on a piece, I don't like to clasp it the same day I make it. That goes almost double for a loomed piece. I like to let this loomed piece rest, honestly, and I like to let my brain rest a little bit too, okay? Because I get a little tense. I don't know if you guys, if this happens to you guys, but I get a little tense sometimes with closing, right? So stopping, taking a breath. Right now I'm taking a little bit of coffee from my Alfie mug. Take a moment before you start this to center yourself, okay? So I put a little plastic baggie underneath. I'm sorry about the reflection, but I want to make sure that I don't get glue on my velvet board. I'm going to get another baggie and I'm going to extrude a little bit of zap glue onto that baggie, okay? And then I'm going to very quickly put the lid on it. I'm going to wipe the excess here. Put a lid on it here. So the zap doesn't, so I don't glue my hand to the table, because I will. Now I've got my toothpick, a little toothpick here, and I'm going to add that glue to these weft threads. You want to be very careful not to get the glue on the first row of beads. Okay, like I just did there. You just want to be very deliberate about where you're putting this. And I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to add a little bit to the rear, to the reverse here. Now the good thing about zap glue is it dries very fast. See how I'm also bringing that zap just up the legs of the leather as well. Okay, so that's that. Now I have this side. I'm gonna pull this up and I'm gonna reverse this so you guys can see this other side. This is the one I did earlier, that I did before the show. Okay, let me get it in frame so you guys can see it here. So this is set. This is really set. It's not going anywhere. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip that end off. And I'm going to cut all my threads away. Now, before I cut this little fringe up real nice and close, I just want to make sure that everything, you know, I'm checking for size to make sure it's going to sit in nicely. Looks good there. And so I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip. All of this has been glued pretty well. So I'm just going to make that little closure. And this is not going anywhere. Those threads aren't going anywhere. See, there's that top view, right? It's not going anywhere. Now I just come in and I slide. This is going to take, I need to get a little closer to my eyes, and I need to make sure if this needs a little bit of coaxing open, just slightly, maybe. And I'm going to slide this guy right in there. Let me get my tweezers, there we go. See how I put, if you need to open it just a little bit, you can by putting in just really gentle. There we go. Let's slide that guy in there. There we are. This is why you need a little bit of rest. But with the courage of your convictions, you guys. I also need to get a little closer to my eye line. It's encountering, there we go. Just see how I'm just moving it back and forth, just sliding it in there. You've got to have a little bit of patience. You can't force this thing. You just have to tell it, there you go, that you're the boss. And pretend that a whole bunch of people aren't watching you do this. Okay, look at that. Beautiful. Now I'm going to show you down the side. Can you see now that everything is sandwiched in there? Okay. And then I'm just going to close this down. And no, I didn't use too much glue, Janice. You just have to be really kind of purposeful getting that in there. With that warp and this A-dots, they wouldn't both fit. So you need to just make sure that's really well glued and just slide it in there, walk it in there so it's not tight. I don't put any glue. Sandra is asking, do I put any glue in the body of this? I mean, I guess you could, but this is really going to hold. That warp that you made here on the end is really solid, and I let it sit. It's been about I don't know, probably 45 minutes or so, but since I've glued this one that I've cut, so it's nice and solid. Okay, then all I do is I get my pliers and I just pull that little end down. There we go. Just like so. And that's in there, it's not going anywhere. Ta-da! There's that end. So let me get rid of this board. And let's see. This is not quite as set as I want it to be, but it's not bad. I'm just going to get a little bit of that extra glue off of there, hopefully not gluing my tissue onto it. There we go. Let's go ahead and clip this off. But again, I would wait about 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so until all of this has really set. Okay? But I'm going to clip, and when I clip, I don't clip right down to that little warp that I made, or that little weft going right to left. I clip so there's just a hair bit of leather sticking up over it. Okay? Now you could, if you wanted to, if you felt like you didn't have the right amount of glue, you could add a little more glue here, but there's plenty of glue on this piece. So let's coax this other end on, shall we? I'm just going to open this up again just for fun. Seemed to work for me pretty well last time. I don't know if I need to or not, but. And you don't want to make this ending too tall or else it won't fit into your slide tube. There we go. This one's going on a lot better. There we go. And there was just a tiny bit of space, just the tiniest bit of space between that warp that I made and the first bead. Okay. So it just can slide right in there. This side didn't give me any sass at all. Good job. There we go. And that's it. Let me get it in the middle of the shot there so you guys can see it. Now I will just get, just real quick, I'm going to get the head pin here and I'm going to put on a little closure. Rita's asking, I need to go and order Zap Glue and a clasp and add it to your order. Can you do the slide? Can you do the slide? You know, I'm going to ask, hey, can somebody hear me out there? Yeah. Can I have a scrap of 1mm leather, please? Sorry, what'd you say? 1mm leather. Could I just get a scrap from the It's a Lot of Leather bin? And a slide tube, please. Any color? Any color, doesn't matter. I'll check it, okay? Let me though, while that's coming, I'm going to just wire wrap a little closure on here. I'll put on an 8/0, maybe a cube, maybe another 8/0. Okay, and I'll just do just a fast wire wrap. We have the wire wrap skill builder on the website. I'm just going to do this at Kate speed, but to give you, that's perfect. Thank you, Jordan.
And I got 3 different
Oh,
sizes.
perfect. You're the best. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Not only do they fill, but they listen to my shout outs. There we go. And you could do a whole bunch of cascading pieces off the end of this. You could use our leaves, right? And really kind of whoop it up on the chain, or you could use pearls. You know, the whole dangle part of this chain could be another aspect of this piece too, right? And I'll just clip away the extra and dip that little end in. Okay. So that's all she wrote. Let me push that little end in and let's close it up and see how my loomed piece, my woven piece, isn't warping. It's because I kept telling myself not too tight, not too tight, not too tight, right? When I was finishing it off. But there you have, okay, there it is. And here's this, all right? Excess, what you could do, and that's a really good question, Lily, you could move your whole piece around because you've done it across the board. So you could, you know, push your piece around to the back of the board and weave another piece on the other side. So you have 2, so you've done 2, you could do that. These are all pretty long, my excess pieces, so I could use these for single, you know, single bracelets or things like that. So, you know, you can get creative with that. But you could, if you move your whole piece around, move your woven to the back and weave up on the top as well. So you could get 2 out of your length, which would be nice. But look at how nice, look at this. This looks good, I think, if I do say so myself. And you can see those cubes, they kind of undulate around in there, but I think they're good. So Jordan brought me a 1mm, and can you see, this is the leather, the metallic leather is a little sometimes heavier. So this is the 0.5 that I've got here, okay? The 1 millimeter is just a hair thicker. Sometimes that metallic, it coats it and it makes it a little bit heavier, all right? So let's take a look. Here's the 3 sizes also. Jordan brought these to me in copper, and it's the small, the medium, and the large. So the 1 millimeter, it works for this one, right? The sizes of leather, though, sometimes vary in the size, okay? So here's the 1 millimeter leather, and it's sliding just fine into that one. If it's on the larger side of 1 millimeter, you might have to struggle a little bit, but I think it works. So try it out. Try it with your leather and your slide tubes before you do the looming, though, okay, before you do the weaving, all right? So I have some other things to share with you guys. So that's it. Let me give you one last look here. Karen's going to take this photo and have it up, and I'll give you the last look on. So here's this. Yeah, it's not bad. And then this guy here that I was working on earlier, this other colorway. You get that one in. Okay, you guys can see that. There they are. And what I used, I'll go over to that other slide so you guys can see. At the bottom, that bottom photo is the monthly mix for the Autumn Splendor, the November monthly mix. And then the Cube SB 18-2008. And then the Half Tyla HTML 316, and then I use the Super Duo Vega on Hyacinth, okay? And then the Clasp down there, that's the, you could do it the same way though that I did with the slide tube, but I wanted to show you the Book of Kells as well, would work with that. You do the same thing, you'd weave the weft back and forth, and you'd glue that up and into the opening of this clasp, okay? So I wanted to show you guys a couple of other things before we left. The project is over, so if you're just here for the project's done, you can go about your day. But I wanted to share a couple of other things with you, since if you're watching this live, it is close to holiday time. And those of you who watched this project last week, the water garden, we have restocked a lot of our English cuts and a lot of the drops, and Linda's really beautiful blue colorway that's on our private Facebook group, the bead table over on Facebook. If you haven't joined us, we'd love to see you over there. Drea is writing it up as a project, and she will have it launched up on the website as well, and she'll let everybody in the newsletter know when the ingredients list and stuff are up for this one. Okay, but this was Water Garden from last week, so it was great. Also, my alternate colorway for this one, the one that I did, it's also up on the blog, and you can see that over there. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys that. Then I have, you know that the holidays are coming up, right? Oh, before I do that, let me show you these guys. These were our original leather and looming pieces that I did. And you can see we used that 10mm clasp. But I used the strap leather with these, and it feels like strap leather doesn't always get the love that it should. I mean, it does. We all love this 5mm strap leather. But you can see I did just a thin strip of bead weaving here. It's just 3 beads across. So it measures 5mm. And then with our 5mm strap leather, it all fits into that 10mm clasp. So these are actually a double wrap. And I wanted to point these out. The project that I did today, the the Snow Queen, it lives in leather and looming, so you'll see it. So this is the one with the purple. This is the one, right now we have not been able to get this natural stitched leather. Our supplier's been out of it forever, which is kind of a bummer, but I pulled the cocoa stitched so you could see that. It would look really nice with any of these. I love the way the stitched leather looks. I love it. And then of course our studded leather, and this one is in the green. I'm also wearing, and you guys know, and these are really super fast projects. If you love this look of the leather, this wrapped leather, this is one, this saddle, it's not available any longer, but we have it in the black, and this is our slide called Surrounded. Janice uses it in Janice's favorite called Trail Ride. She's used that. We have that nice studded leather. We have it in the black right now. And the closure that you would use it with it, this is the special delivery clasp. That's the one that goes in there. It's that one. Or you could put two side by side and use the 10mm clasp. Sorry, I'm out of frame. The 10mm clasp that way. These are, if you are looking for holiday projects that are super fast, strap leather is the way to go. It's great. And we also have it in the braided, the flat braided. So you could do one side is the strap and the other could be the braid. And you could do this a double, glue it right into the clasp, and you're good to go. You've made this in like 10 minutes. It's great. So if you're looking for kind of a fun, funky holiday gift, these are great. Look to the strap leather and either the 5mm or the 10mm magnetic clasps. Those are good. And then we couldn't let this episode go by, or at least I couldn't, without showing you, we've been talking about them earlier, but I want to show you here, our new elephant charms. And these, you'll remember these from Janice's curated box, right, that we did, the autumn before winter, with the dancing, it's called Dancing Elephant, was the project. And you guys love them so much that we got them in all three flavors. This is the one from Janice's box. This one, the black. It's plated, it's over the brass. So this is a natural brass here, but then it's been antiqued actually. So a little bit of that brass shines through, but it's super dark. And so I like it because it's a natural finish. And then this one is the natural brass that's been patinaed. Okay. And I can't tell you which one is my favorite. I love them all, but these, we'll be able to get them again, but we won't be able to get them again for a while. Okay, so if you love them, don't wait. We've only got a limited supply of these and they're on the website now. If we run out of them, put yourself on the waiting list. We'll get them back in, but we probably won't have them back in until next year. Okay. I wanted to show you though, these would be great strung on just a simple piece of cord, which I think would be great. Sorry, I don't know what let me X out of this. Sorry. I'm not sure what happened to this. There we go. Where's my, there we are. Sorry about that. There we go. Sorry. You can, I screwed up on that little camera fix. I pulled, oh, see, what's this little square there? Sorry, you guys. Let me see if I can turn that off. There we go. There we are. All right. Back to normal. We have these faceted drops, which I love so much. And I thought that if you did, like if you put one of these little elephants on like some leather cord or something, then you could do an embellishment with, let's say, one of these faceted drops and like a wrapped briolet, right? Wouldn't that just look delicious. So you can group all of these together, and you can get one of our big heavy jump rings and put all of them on like one jump ring or like 3 jump rings or whatever, and these would slide right on. But I don't know, I just thought that the briolets and the faceted drops with these elephants looked amazing. So I don't know, I'm tossing this one now out to you, what happens here. But our faceted drops, they come 6-2 a strand, and they're great for earrings and stuff as well. So I wanted to show you these. Now, one last thing I'm going to show you guys is what's coming up on Friday. Brittany's going to be with us here on Friday. I just saw a text come through with her. She's all, do you want to touch base today? And yes, I do. So Friday, we are having a special event, a special trunk show event with strands that are extremely limited and extremely fine. And they're going to go live on air. They're going to go live on the website on Friday. Friday's date is the 6th, I think. Friday the 6th. Let me just make sure that's correct. And they're going to go on at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, yeah, that's Friday the 6th. Then Brittany and I are going to go live on Free Tip Friday and talk about all the strands. And we have strands that, and Janice and I have been wanting to bring like really high-end, really fancy pants, kind of exciting strands to you. And we didn't quite know how to do it, but I think we found a solution. So we've got a limited supply that are going to go on Friday, as I said. And then Brittany and I are going to do a show, and we're going to talk about design ideas, all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to show you, I want to get these back under my center light here so you guys can see these. So I have some, this is blue fluorite, light blue fluorite in 8mm. Look at that stone. This is super limited. Blue calcigny in the host stone. Look at the shine on that. Isn't it gorgeous? That is, what millimeter is that? 12mm. These are sunstone, 7mm, and they're faceted. When Janice and I pulled these, when we decided about what we were going to share with you guys, we looked at the quality of each stone, and we looked at a color. So this show is going to be all about a color story. So whatever it is you get should match whatever else you get. Look at these. These are tanzanite quartz, 12mm round. And these are things that when we had a store, when we had a brick and mortar store, these were things that we could sell because we could just get them in and we could sell them, and then when we were out, right? But it's frustrating when you're online and you're like, wait, you only had 15 of these and now they're gone. So that's why we're doing a really special show, limited editions. They're going to go live at 9:30 a.m. It's going to be under Trunk Show. You'll see there will be a link. Dria's going to send out a newsletter, and we'll see how it goes. And if you guys love it, we'll do it again. But we really, really wanted the opportunity to bring you things that maybe are a little higher end, a little more expensive, that we couldn't, that we don't want to stock, hundreds of strands if they're super expensive, obviously. I wish we could. But the pieces, you guys, I think you're really going to love. And this is just like a little bit of a taste. I know the tanzanite quartz, Janice says, I'll just send those right to me. But look at the sizes of the stones and stuff. So Brittany's going to be here with me on Friday, and she's going to help me literally romance the stone for you guys. And we're going to talk about designing. We're going to talk about color. She's going to sprinkle some of her Brittany magic for you guys. These are This is blue chalcedony. It's a 12 millimeter round. I mean, just look. They're just, the holes are perfect. The faceting is perfect. We have been very picky about what we've chosen for this. So it is going to be Friday, December 6th. The beads will go up at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, and our show, Free Tip Friday, will start at 10:30 with Brittany and I. Okay. So those are the things I wanted to share with you. I'm really excited for Friday. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be so fun. Thank you again for joining me for this bracelet project. I hope you jump in and play. And you know, if you're brand new to starting with the looming, just make yourself a little. Just go right now after you've watched this broadcast. Go to your bead stash and pull some things. Just pull some ADOTs, some random ADOTs, and do a little tiny test piece. Okay, then you will have kind of, you know, gotten your feet wet, stuff like that. There's no reason to be afraid of looming, right? All there are beads. You just cut them up and you try again. Just remember, leave some air. You don't want your bracelet to warp. You want it to have some movement to it, right? So we want this to move. I never even really put it on, but I think it really looks lovely on the wrist as well. Fit for a snow queen. So that's what I've got. Thank you, as always, you guys, so much for joining me every time here on our live broadcast. You can go to beadshop.com for information on all the products and the project from this broadcast. Remember, sign up for our newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products, which are always coming through our doors here at beadshop.com. And lastly, I will join you Friday, December 6th at 10:30 a.m. for our trunk show broadcast with Brittany. Remember that those stones are going to go live Friday morning at 9:30, and they will be up until they get sold out. I think you're really going to love them. So thank you guys so much as always. You know we couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate you, and I will see you on Friday. I think you're really going to love them. So thank you guys so much as always. You know we couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate you, and I will see you on Friday for Free Tip Friday.